the Small Gamer. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to Stream Streak, day 50. Half a century. 50 cents. That's how much this show's worth. Welcome.
Rob has not been shot 9 times, so that's good.
That you know.
You're from England, so maybe you've been stabbed 9 times? I don't know.
I'm actually from, I don't know if you know, Nottingham was once called Shottingham. Because
Shottingham?
Yeah, because of our 4 to 5 gun crimes we had.
Because of the Shotwood Forest?
Yeah.
Is that why?
That works. Welcome to the show, Val and the Falcon. Good morning to you both. How are you?
I'm here. I'm living the dream.
Good. I mean, the crowd is going wild to see you. Everyone's excited. Did that work? Your button doesn't work.
Oh, you have a bit of this as well? Excellent.
Aww.
Did Rob run out of this soundboard?
Yeah, I did the whole thing. I can even do this. I can, when we want to sing later, I can be like, let's go, welcome to Stream Streak Day 50, everyone.
Love it. Yes.
Yes.
Only do this. The crowd wants us to not talk about Warhammer. Let's do it. We're on to a great start.
Look, we got to do what we're good at, and that's not Warhammer. So
it's true. We're terrible at it.
Welcome to the best non-Warhammer show you'll ever listen to.
We're Warhammer adjacent.
Exactly. That was what I was about to say. It's like we're twins.
That's because you and I were in the.
Yep. We're on that same wavelength. Yeah.
Brothers from different mothers. 7 people. Rob, have you told anyone we're on the show today?
Calm down. Welcome everyone to the show. If you are joining us live, you might be joining us live on Twitch. You might be joining us live on Facebook. You might be joining us live on YouTube or even Twitter. Live on Twitter.
No.
Yes, correct.
No.
Yes.
No.
Twitter.
Won't do
17.
it.
We're getting those numbers up. I like it.
We're cross-platform. So welcome to the show, and thank you to everyone who listens to the podcast. The podcast also, there's a load of guys. Day 50 as well. I'm sure people are like, what are we tuning in for at this stage? Because 2 of the greatest men in the hobby, Val and the Falcon, are here to talk about whatever I think they want to talk about. But first off, how are you both? I'll start with you, Pete. Pete, how you doing?
I'm a little tired, but I'm living, I will say I had a pretty big existential crisis a couple days ago. I was sitting in my kitchen, cooking supper, listening to Bad Religion. Back in my late teens, early 20s, they were an integral part of my life. And I realized that I've become the father from a 21st century digital boy. And I just had to, sit down for a minute and think about that.
Right.
It's okay.
I've just been watching Rob Syme's Fight Club videos from the early 2000s. That's all. I've become quite the aficionado. His mini stick fighting and hockey helmet technique is amazing.
It's not a hockey helmet; it's an Eskrima helmet. My brother took up skateboarding, and I remember very clearly one point coming home stinking of rattan wood and gross leather, and then my brother cruised in on his skateboard, and then just as I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I've just been out of the park chilling." I was like, "Fuck, wrong hobby." Really fucked myself up. Really opened myself up some ridicule on that one, I think. So have you not done anything else apart from admire my lithe form beating up?
Well, I don't know if you saw the news on Facebook, but we're currently in the box apocalypse. So behind me, actually, we got a little setup here for photographing miniatures.
Oh wow! Look at that. There's a table. There's everything.
What's going on back there?
What are you doing?
I got 2 lights. 2 lights, folks. See, this is my attempt to get top
Same
dollar. I almost said dollar, but that's not cool.
It's cool to me.
It's
Cool
cool.
to me.
I'm from Alberta. It's cool to me.
I watch Team America. I'm okay with it.
That's right. By the way, Kim Il Sung not dead.
That's weird.
I don't know who
I
Kim Il-sung is, but-
thought he was dead.
Sure seemed like he was dead. The guy looks like he could die at any second, but so do some other world leaders. But whatever.
But did you see? So I don't know. If you guys at home aren't following, the glorious leader of North Korea was
Official
rumored
sponsor,
to be
I
dead.
think, of the show.
But yeah, official sponsor of Tuesdays actually was perceived to be dead. And then it was rumored his sister would take over, and a lot of people.
His
Yeah.
hot sister, calm down.
His
Let's get
what,
that
sorry?
out of there. His very attractive sister.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. A lot of people now a little bit torn because obviously I know a lot of ladies who are attracted to serial killers. I don't know if you are, you're into that world, but there are ladies who very much dig the serial killer vibe. And now I didn't know, but authoritarian dictators seems to tickle my pickle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
you know who's a lot of bit torn? Opponents of Kim Jong Il. So yeah, I'm all for it. And
Il's dead. Il's dead. Un, no. Yeah. Yeah,
Il's
right.
dead? This is Un?
This is Un. Yeah.
Shit. I used to be up on my fucking Korean Peninsula dictators, and
It's okay.
Yeah,
me know.
Il's dead, Un's next, and next in line is Kim Jong
so,
Tres.
so what we got? We got Sung Un Il. No, Sung Il Un.
Yeah.
Is that a
and
40
now possibly Chan or something like that. Yeah.
Is that the 40k character? Is that a new Primaris Marine? I'm very confused.
Yes. Sung-il
He's the
Sung-il
big,
Chan.
he's the big release of the new line before GW realizes what they've done. Oh no!
Oh no! Why are you taking
How do we
photos
name
of?
a character Kim Sung Il-un?
Why have
Mistakes
we
were
done
made.
this? Yeah.
Mistakes were made.
Why?
I have a question
This
for
new
you,
generator
and
finally screwed us over.
I have a question for you both in the chat. If Kim Jong Un was, or Kim Jong Un, whatever you say, was to play a 40k army, potentially we could do this with a lot of world leaders. Could be the first start of our show on a Tuesday. First bit. What army do you think that they would play? New segment, world leader.
Dark
army.
Angels, because I'm beating Pete to it.
No. He wouldn't play Dark Angels.
I feel like I'm gonna go Harlequins because they're a little razzle dazzly. He seems kind of flashy, you know. I don't know.
What- His best friend's
That
Dennis
mouse
Rodman,
suit.
right?
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe that's where I'm getting the Harlequins from. Last Dance, by the way, really
I'm
good.
putting way too much thought into this, I think.
I don't think you are. I don't think you are at all. And obviously, it can be any system you want. I tried to share the video of us talking, but for some reason I've shared it to my story on Facebook. I'm honestly confused at this point. We're also live on Mixer if anyone wants to go and watch us on there, but I
And
don't know.
Grindr. We're live on Grindr.
Well, Mixer's bad. Swipe right, guys.
Yeah.
Grinder, you actually circle. I don't know if you've ever used Grinder, but
Yeah,
when you
that's good.
want to say yes to someone, you actually take your finger and do a circular motion really, really fast.
Okay.
That's how you say yes.
That's grinding.
Now
Yeah, that's Grinder.
I've-
Actually, there's no
I've
option
lost
for no.
track.
What army would Trudeau play? Oh man, Trudeau.
Well, we haven't finished Un yet, right?
Oh well, I don't know. I went with Harlequins for some reason.
Okay, I'm going Imperial Guard because he's playing.
Yeah, I think you're
only
right.
he's only playing Death Strike missiles. He's got 3 of those guys lined up at the back.
Now the chat went with Tau. Why? Why is that, chat?
Yeah.
you,
why is
you,
that?
you racist fucks.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Nothing we've said is racist or even
Absolutely
borderline
nothing.
up to this point.
Nothing.
Oh no.
That's cute.
Yeah.
I feel like Trudeau
Trudeau
doesn't play
Ultramarines.
any army. He just like looks cooler than you and judges you silently while being nice.
I think that makes him an Eldar player.
Okay, that's good. I like it.
Who, Trudeau?
Trudeau.
Trudeau? Is that how you say it?
La, la, la.
Trudeau? I don't know.
Trudeau.
This-
Trudeau.
Can I get a Canadian let's get on it, or however you guys start the day?
Let's get on what? Get up and at her.
Up and at her.
Trudeau, something. He can blackface. You're right. He would play salamanders.
Oh.
Ooh. I'm going to go for Boris playing Ultramarines, which he inherited from his dad. He doesn't really even think about it, just puts them on the table. Like, it's the same army list that, like, it's all second edition models, doesn't even care, just puts them on. Yeah. Just that.
Goblin green bases?
yeah, he's like, it's a tradition. This is how it works. Like, that's not legal. You can't play that in the tournament anymore. The bases are wrong. The models are the wrong size. And he's just like, I've got a special dispensation from the TO. I'm allowed to do it. I'm friends with him. That's why we can play it. That's what I'm going for.
I hate that guy.
yeah. Merkel's going to play Iron Hands. Just no fucking.
Yo, Angela, come on.
Yeah.
Let's not.
Angela.
Angela, girl. I'm going to miss her so much, man, because the world's going to end when she retires. It's over.
She's really good.
Can we not just, like, I don't know, get one of those, like, floating head jars from Futurama and just keep her somehow alive forever?
They don't kill her when she leaves. She's like...
Isn't that what the Germans do?
Okay.
Yeah, it's like bullfighting, Val. It's like bullfighting. They spear her as she walks off the space stage and salute her. That's it.
Yeah, Merkel would be very efficient. Yeah, all right. Iron Hand, I get it.
It's like Judge Dredd. It's Judge Dredd. Like when her watch is over, she goes off into the wastes. Yeah,
drifts off into the sea.
Yeah. Right, okay. Well, we're probably meant to be talking about 40k today, and there is some actual news. You guys have got some gossip for me, which I want to hear about. Some 40k tea, as we now know it's called. But there is some news in that we've started to see some community articles come out from Games Workshop, and it looks like, yeah. Oh my god, I love you guys so much. I wish we could do this all the time. Just gonna hit with that. I don't know if that works. But they've started to do community articles again, which means we might be back on the treadmill, the release train. I'm not sure what it's called. Yeah,
they started paying their Chinese interns again. That's fantastic.
The t-shirt gun of community articles. Yeah, there's boom, 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 boom. Oh, yeah. And they, oh, God. MJ Pegasus, I will stop melting your copper. That relates to a bit. We read some Stormcast narrative last night. One of the sub-factions.
Oh, yeah. Breathless 7-year-old story time. Hit me.
One of the sub-factions apparently are so angry that their stare is able to melt copper.
And then what happened?
That was it.
Oh.
Yeah. It's able to melt copper.
And
that's so
and then he looked at the statue, and then the statue melted because it was made of copper.
Yeah. Well, listen to you. I guarantee when this is all over, you are picking up a fantasy army. There's no way that Total War hasn't dragged into your soul and you aren't going to be thinking about playing some sort of fantasy or Age of Sigmar.
I'm sorry, I took my headphones off and made faces at the camera. What did you say there?
I'm saying that you played so much Total War that there's no way that you're not playing fantasy when this goes back to it. Yeah? Don't you try to lie to me.
I'm pretty resolute usually, and I'm not going to do that. But when they announced the hilariously stupid idea of bringing back Warhammer Fantasy battles, I was semi-in my mind. I was like,
I'm 100% in. I'm 100%.
Oh shit! New Warhammer Fantasy Battle Show. Rob, the Falcon, and Val. This is gonna be.
I'm into it.
I'm into it. I'm really into
my
it.
4-year-old child by then, because it'll be a little while. So yeah,
it is gonna be a while. So my question is if you do get back, I've skipped past the community article for a second. How's Total War going? Did you kill the rat? We haven't actually found this out yet.
Oh, Ikit Claw? Ikit Claw. So my third attempt to kill him, he was just I was booting up. I was going through all the same things that I always went to, and then instead of it going to a battle, he just offered me a peace treaty, and I never saw him again. He just disappeared down the map somewhere in West. And like his all his territory is right next to mine. It's still there. And like I've even blown up a few of the places. Ikit Claw still has not returned to kick my ass. So I have no idea what's going on. I was unfortunately in Total War. I got to a point where, because I started it on normal because it was my first campaign, and I didn't want to like have to restart every turn, just every other turn. And I'm kind of at that point where I'm just like economically dominant. So there's like no one around that can hang with me. Except for Ikit Claw, probably. But I don't know where he is.
I like your version of playing Total War way more than I prefer the version of like pros who you see on Twitch. And they're like, yeah, so I've got these spaced out, and obviously these are going to be my reserves, and I'm going to flank, and then going to make sure I do this. And you're like, me and Ikit Claw, we had a really deep talk. I got really emotional. I've got some economic dominance. I don't know if you know this, but I'm making like 600 gold a turn now. Love it. I think I prefer people who don't know the game overly well, and their first intrepid dive into it is far more thrilling, I think, sometimes.
Well, I mean, I think everyone's got to go through that with the game when there's some magic to it still. It's fun. Like, there's a guy who I've been watching a little bit. He's like, what's his name? He's like, I don't know. He's like Total War Gamer or something. It's real clever. Anyway, and all he does are these like disaster scenarios where like someone has like got themselves into a dill of a pickle and he fights them out of it with like these like hilariously lopsided battles. And it looks like he almost loses all the time, but he just pulls these things out of their hats, and they're tremendously entertaining to watch. Whoever it is, this is a great recommendation. Moving on.
I highly recommend you watch this YouTube channel. He's got a name. Don't remember what it is.
Things going on. He's playing a game.
It's Warhammer adjacent.
Okay, let's get back to. Oh, sorry.
Been listening to it. No, I just want to listen to say because I don't know. Especially Rob here is a bit of a lefty on the Facebook, and I just want to alert you to a wet dream of a podcast for you. It's the premise of it is called Rabbit Hole.
Yeah,
and it's by the New York Times. If you're the daily listener, you would have had this plugged already. But anyway, it's basically a fantasy land where there's this guy who goes down a YouTube rabbit hole, becomes like infatuated with the alt-right and all this kind of stuff, and then through the power of reason and logic, he realizes he was wrong. Can't make this shit up. It was amazing. So anyway, well worth a listen.
All right, okay, I'll listen to that. I'm into it. I decided that I'm going to get really into conspiracy theories. At one point, I was really angry at politics. So, but then in 2020, I decided to give it all up. Perfect time. Basically, nothing's happened. And so at this point on, I've decided that probably I might only listen to everything Alex Jones says because it's the best way to live.
He's pretty energetic about it, that's for sure.
I've never seen anyone so serious about. And I want that, but I want that for 40k. Yeah.
Okay. We'd have to yell a lot more.
Yeah.
Well, how does he set his level? It's super hard.
How does he stay at that level for cocaine?
No, like,
definitely it's cocaine.
Like, I mean, how do you come way down low? I don't know.
Oh, I'm not sure where you are. Hello to all our Facebook viewers, by the way. We started to hit the numbers, Val. You're happy now? Yeah, I shared it out in a bunch
11?
Yeah, I shared it. Oh, I shared it into Facebook groups, loads of them,
Excellent.
Specifically 40k for grown-ups, which is a cesspool of hilariousness. Yeah, yeah. Fucking let's go. Fucking bring it.
Not like this. Not like
I
this.
don't think that's a key demo. I'm not gonna.
I think I have to shut off my webcam at this point.
That group of people are probably the type of people who I don't like, but maybe I'm wrong.
This is
a
the
core
best.
group.
I'm already excited about the comments. We were talking about the
Warhammer community article.
The Warhammer community article where they have started whatever the hell they're saying on there. They started bringing back articles, which means we're back into the shotgun meta of things being released. And Mechanicum getting new releases, that means more than likely a new book. Do you think that means we might see a Mechanicum starter set for the 9th edition? Or do you think, do you guys not think that? And you think we're just seeing a new Mechanicum book coming soon? or just a splash release. Random models, no codex.
I'm sorry, are we talking Mechanicus or Mechanicum? What are we talking about here?
I think they're the same thing. It's a British thing. It's
No, they're not. They're not. I got told off actually by the, when I worked for Games Workshop. I got told off specifically not the same thing.
Did I just trigger you a bit there?
Yeah. Yeah. Every time I'd go back, they'd be like, "God damn it, Rob! The Mechanicum is 30k," and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry." No, Mechanicus is 30k. Mechanicum is 40k. I still don't know. I didn't listen. Probably why I got in trouble.
Doesn't matter. I mean, it does to somebody.
Yeah.
This is just a Psychic Awakening release to finally finish that codex, and then in 9th edition, whenever it launches, 2 years from now at this point, 18 years from now, who knows? They'll be implemented. I'm pretty stoked because of robot dogs.
I don't know. Robot dogs.
I love the reaction so far to that community article. There were so many people that were like, "These things are garbage," when all they've released are one of its weapons. They were like, "No one will ever play these. They're not competitive." And it's like all they showed was the flamer weapon the dog has. Oh, and I guess one of the pistols you can take on a sergeant for the other squad. The other way to build them. So I just thought that was super cute. Like, just people losing their mind.
Yeah.
The pistols are stupendous. Like these guys are like steampunk.
Oh, I know.
They look great, but no, I agree with you, Pete. Like, what if every one of the models is 1 point?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, it always shocks me when I see these knee-jerk reactions. I mean, maybe they will be garbage. GW does like to make really beautiful models that suck rules-wise, but.
And then also make really ugly models, Eldar, and make them have good rules.
All the time.
Ugly?
What they are? They basically, there's zero effort. Like, and I've interviewed Jez Goodwin live on air, and I tell him to his face.
Goodwin.
Yeah, I'd be like, "Look, those hats, they suck." Yeah. What do you?
The Pope hats on the Eldar?
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you like them?
Whoa. I'm sorry, I just saw a picture of the flamer dude with the wings. Looks pretty awesome.
He does, and that's one where the weapon immediately looks good. But I mean, it could be 80 points, and so it goes both ways, right? So
yeah, and the weird flying stands.
A really cool question is, so I played Mechanicum at the start of 8th edition, and I didn't like the fact that it was just battle robots all the while. And obviously, when you got the Vigilus detachment, we started to see a lot more Cataphrons, which was a pretty good build. But I don't know any more than that when it comes to the competitive nature of them. I've always ascertained that there's a large portion of that codex. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, there's a large portion of that book that isn't particularly viable, mainly because there was the lack of transportation that was valuable or good. And even then, when you did transport something somewhere, you were like, it's not that good when it gets there. But Pete, obviously, 40kstats.com, what have you seen? And Val, you guys, have you heard much about Mechanicum players? How do they generally do before the lockdown?
So AdMech's kind of been pretty flip-floppy when it comes to results. They'll go through streaks where they're subpar, and then they'll go through a pretty big streak where 3 or 4 players in particular will just like be rock stars with them, either win GTs, come in top 4 pretty frequently. Their numbers going into LVO were very strong. After LVO, they dipped significantly because they had no answer to the Broviathan or like Raven Guard, but no, very few people did. So they do need the update, but the codex really is actually very strong after the last chapter approved. And the last 2 chapter approves. The point reductions they got, plus Vigilus, really did boost them. Added on to the fact that they got the Scorpius Disintegrator, which is one of the best tanks in the game. Which they just got at random, right? So,
yeah, is this too much Warhammer? Apparently, the chat said this is too much Warhammer. I think that there's loads to learn there, so I'm listening. So screw you guys. I like listening. It's a faction I want to play. That's why. And so I hate the Scorpius tank though. I need to say that. It's so ugly. It's fugly. And I
You
wish...
know, that's weird, Rob. I've never heard you make that take before. You don't like the Scorpius tank?
Oh, neither of you like it, surely?
But the look of it, it's
Yeah.
ugly as all get out. Oh, it's
Thank
disgusting. But it's amazing on the table. Both the transport and the tank itself. So good. So stupidly good. But yeah, they're ugly.
I will go out and say that. Well, me and Rob already kind of touched on this when Pete was sleeping one day or whatever. They have a really weird aesthetic, and I much prefer the Mechanicum vehicle line. I think there's some of the most beautiful models that GW has, and I'll be much more interested whenever they do get around to rebooting Forge World, whether or not we see those models in the range, because it's insane to me that they're not in 40K.
Well, so I have a question for you. Like, so Nick in the chat saying, why don't I convert it? Also, big shout out to Nikos, love him. But it's not on a base, so like, I have to generally keep the profile-ish, right?
Remember when all those orc buggies came out and they were on bases and like the whole world was like, oh my god, vehicles are on bases now.
Yeah.
It was like, lol, nah, just these ones.
Just these ones.
just specifically these ones. No consistency. Yeah. So
I don't know. We had some lying around the office. We thought, we're gonna put these on bases.
It's for the game that they made, which required you to not have a base either. So Speed Freaks, the game, if you've ever played it, which is how they first released those buggies, didn't require bases at all either. So there's no real reason why they've got bases.
Hey, man. It was part of the design philosophy. You didn't understand the vision. You can't make any changes because that's not how they viewed it.
So do you think I couldn't fix those tanks up, is what I'm saying?
I mean, you could buy like toy Camaros and you'd have basically the same thing.
What, as the floaty Mechanicum tank?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't
brick?
know, man.
Just a brick?
Yeah,
Stick some guns
just
on
a brick and then hollow out one end of it. You'd be good if you want to run the transports.
Yeah, I don't know what I could do to make that look better. I think I'm going to, as much as you laud its tactical ability, I think I'm just going to eschew it. There you go. I got laud and eschew in there for your Val. Is that okay?
Nice.
Thanks.
That was like a $6 word. Delightful.
Yeah, I'm going to scrap that and not play it. But I don't think that the other thing that the Mechanicum need is just some more Toughness 3 infantry dudes, whether or not they fly or are on a dog.
Well,
Rob,
Deep
I
Strike
just want to point
helps
out here. I'm just noticing a pattern.
Yeah.
I want to play this army. Cool. Here's the best unit. Don't like that. This army sucks. This kind of seems to be. The circle of Rob's 40K life, and we gotta break the wheel, man. Gotta break the wheel.
Maybe if I just play with the tanks, I'll learn to love them, like the first two kids I had.
I will say that like there's a couple guys out there. Was it David Kochka? I think he did a wicked job painting his disintegrators. So you can make them look nice if you want to put a lot of effort into it. But yeah, no, that's kind of the build. Going back to that, either disintegrators with termite drills filled with electro priests, because that's still good. Electro priests can still get a 2+ invulnerable save when they're standing on a objective, which is absolutely silly. I think the only unit now in that whole codex that's absolute garbage is Ruststalkers. That's the one unit which unfortunately is just a pile of shit, and there's no way around it. Like, it's just an absolute. It's too bad because they look awesome. They have really awesome like lore around them, but they're an absolute garbage fire. And you should. And if you run them in a list, then you are what's wrong with Warhammer.
I do like also the Electro Priests, so naked, because they're arguably some of the most naked models in 40k. They're 50% naked. I don't know if there's anything that's more naked. Challenge to the Twitch chat and everyone else. But
that is a good question. What is the most naked 40k model? This is a kind of question that I'm personally interested in.
And surely thingy don't count. Anything that wouldn't normally wear clothes, i.e., Tyranids.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Kind of probably.
But then you cut out like demonettes, which they don't normally either.
I mean, yeah, we got some sexy lobster ladies there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I guess they're more naked, but they don't have a 2-up invulnerable save. Is my point, because there's a weird theme which actually translates from Age of Sigmar and also into this, because Bulgarians also are not. They do have giant shields though, so that makes more sense.
Yeah, that one that's their shtick.
Yeah, but having a 2-up invulnerable save and being half naked, it seems to be a concurrent theme.
It's electricity, Rob. It's all electricity is your invulnerable save. That's all it is.
So Terminator with a big storm shield, 3-up.
Yep. Electricity and grit, 2-up. That's like they're just once they get angry, once they get enough bloodlust in them is really the key, right? Because they have to kill something to get a 3-up. Otherwise, they just have a 5. Who cares? 5's a garbage, right?
But
once 5 does.
Yes. Worthless, but yeah, that 3-up invuln. All right, well, so I think it's cool. We might start seeing more community articles coming up about the Mechanicum, and we might start seeing slowly the releases occurring again.
Yeah.
Get back on that train, which is kind of exciting, but also I won't lie, I haven't minded the rest for a bit to catch up on some of the rules and things, because it was a bit hectic at one point, right?
Oh yeah, I mean every 2 days they had something new coming out and. Ruining the game over and over again, but then making it better. It's hard. It's just they're living a good life.
All right, here we go. I finally found. So Pete name checked David Casca a little bit early. He said Mike Casca, but close enough. And
I'm pretty sure I said David, but maybe I didn't.
I heard Mike. Whatever. I just would rather you're wrong. Look.
Okay.
And the reason why I bring it up is because Mr. Casca in this neck of the woods wins every painting award ever.
Which he should.
Which he does. But he has a style that I would describe only as a crazy person.
Mm-hmm.
And each one of his models is painted with individual brush strokes, almost like Pintelism. Like it's fabulous. I found there's a battlereport.com showcase here of his army. Can I post links into the chat? Is that allowed?
Yeah, 100%.
There you go. It is absolutely outstanding work. And Mr. Casca also just one of the just nicest guys. We'll love to talk to you about 40K. But anyway, this is his. He runs usually an Imperium or a mixed AdMech army. This looks like one of the more recent ones. Yeah, I haven't actually seen this knight before.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was at LVO. I was chatting with him very briefly, and he was in the midst of painting a new army at LVO while playing. Because that's just he never stops. This is a guy who he'll paint on public transit. He paints going everywhere, and you know what? He kind of aside from the fact that he's the type of guy who just always wears sandals. Seems like a pretty well-adjusted, nice guy. But he just loves painting. And I remember the first time I ever realized, I was at a place called the Beef and Wing Tournament, and he was a paint judge, and. One of the things on the rubric was that the bases match the tray, and I had the colors to me matched, and what they meant was are identical, but I was it's matched. If I was wearing pants that were that color and a shirt that color, they'd match. And he got so upset with me. Not upset, actually. I would say it was more frowny face disappointed. And it was in the course of that conversation that I realized I was a monster, because this guy clearly really thinks that this is I don't know, art and something worth working hard at and trying hard at. And I'm a guy who just pays somebody to do it for me. So I felt bad is the long story there. And people asked me why I was being mean to David Casca. And they were right. I don't know why I was being mean to him.
Oh, that's a genuinely sweet story. I think painting on public transport might be a bit too far. I'm not 100% certain about that. I know a guy who paints in his bed.
Did you look at why he has to paint all the time? It's because each is just in so many brushstrokes for each model, and he's prolific. He paints constantly. I've never seen his army without like a new addition or a change. I wonder what the full collection looks like. It's probably pretty crazy at this point.
Yeah. I mean, he's also the guy that wets his brushes with his tongue. So there's that. So who knows what happens there.
To be honest, you lost me at wear sandals all the time. Just going to put it out there. and you know you did.
And tank tops, man. And
Pardon
tank
me?
tops. Just rip showing off them guns.
Oh, a singlet's fine. I don't mind a singlet. That's fine.
I like that you
But-
call it a singlet and not,
too.
and not a
Makes-
beater. I don't like
makes me-
that. I don't like that they've become known as wife beaters. So this is kind of
Yeah. But the thing about singlet is it makes me think about like professional wrestling more than the T. So I don't know.
I just feel like I like generally. I've loved meeting all the different people from all around the world over the past few years, and all of the different ways in which people discuss things. And I think singlet is just a better word for a tank top. Tank top is also a
Absolutely.
very odd term. It's a tank top. I mean, could there be less top? Therefore, not very tanky at all. I don't know where tank comes from.
It's good. Maybe it's because like everyone who was wearing them were tanks.
Oh, okay, yeah,
I see where this is going.
yeah.
You should never
Okay.
flex where it's being videotaped because it could be used against me in a court of law.
So there you go. I think we were talking about Mechanicum. I don't know where we are now.
Yeah, I don't know where we went.
David
we-
Casca's giant sandaled feet.
New stuff coming out is exciting, which means because we're in day 50 of the lockdown, I'm sure some people are getting tetchy now. They want to get out.
No.
They want to get
Never.
out. You know, the engines of war restarting at Games Workshop must mean that the engines of war are starting on the tabletop. Isn't that right? Is there some hot tea that you have of some tournaments that maybe try to start sometime soon?
Yeah, there was some issues last night. Somebody posted on Comp 40K that they're starting an event in Missouri in like a month and a half, and it went how I expected. The reaction was exactly how I expected it would be, and that was like a good 70% hatred and 30% good for you, and then the 70 and the 30 just had a big fight in the comments until the mods eventually shut it down. Because in the United States and a couple other countries, like they're opening up. Some states just went full bore. They didn't. Their 4-part plan was like part 1, everything opens. Part 2, keep it
Nothing
going.
bad happens.
Right. And then some states and provinces have been a little slower, a lot slower. So this was kind of expected. I think Texas. There's rumor that Texas is going to try to have a GT in like 2 weeks. I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna say that I'm super happy about the concept for a number of reasons, not just because of death and epicenters. But Val and I talked about this. My big concern at this point, from an existential standpoint, is something like, con crud happening, turning into COVID, and then some news organization being like, these idiot Warhammer players, Warhammer, blum blum blum, and then they go into a dark room and teach you how to play Warhammer and why you're an asshole for doing it right now, and it's just bad. Like,
Oh yeah, like I mean, we said on our finale show, or at least I did anyway. Like we have a term already for passing diseases and viruses around at a tournament. Concrud, it exists. These are the perfect places to get a bunch of people sick. Although I do understand now why people don't like to share dice. Didn't get it before. I get it now. Turns out you weren't dicks. You just were concerned about hygiene. That's fine. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's we'll see. I honestly, like, people. You're not an epidemiologist. You didn't even know what that word meant a week ago, buddy. But okay, fine. I'm not. And it's true. I'm not. But I mean, I'm just. When we had to go into quarantine. Oh, did I just shut down? No. Okay. When we had to go into quarantine. It was to stop the spread of the virus. And now we're coming out of it. And what's different? I don't think there's nothing different. There's nothing different. There's still a horrible virus out there. And nothing's changed. Like maybe 5-10% of people maybe have gotten it. And they might be immune. So not an epidemiologist, but as far as I can tell, there's no difference.
I think, do you guys, because this is a tough call for you guys, and also for me as well, because one thing, we all are going to have different feelings and opinions on it, right? Just like governments and organizations and leaders do. which is, but there's a general consensus among the scientific community generally, which is where like I put my stock for information. But do you feel as community leaders, and I think it's fair to say that you both are, and you also know other community leaders, it's a really hard time because much like here locally in Nottingham, there's a really nice fella who started up a street food venue about a year ago, and he's been working really hard his entire life on being a chef. I know him personally. He's a super nice guy. He won like the European Street Food Award last year, so amazing stuff. But now COVID's happened, and his business is shut down, and they've started doing like food delivery. And they're being as safe as they can, but ultimately you're preparing food and sending it out to people. That's a really easy way to transfer stuff. Like, and I don't begrudge him here.
Whoa. Takeout food is totally safe. Let's not get crazy here, all right? Don't take that away from me, pal. Okay? This is not a vector, okay? McDonald's that I order off of the Uber app is not a vector, all right? Let's just eliminate that from the conversation immediately. Here's something I was going to say is that I think what Pete said about the 70%, 30% thing is when these things start happening again, 30% of people are going to show up, right? Most people, I think, are going to stay away. Even once, like, it's going to be a real challenge, guys. Like, even when things are normal, things have changed. There's a treatment, there's a vaccine, we've got herd immunity, whatever. Like, we're in that actual next phase. I think it's going to be hard to get people comfortable in like big groups and closed spaces again. It'll take time. So I think we're going to lose a lot of the momentum we have. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I think that's just going to be the reality of things. The world has changed like irrevocably. So.
Yeah. Oh, I've like, so you guys may or may not know that I've worked in nightclubs almost like for most of my 20s, like every single night. So like sometimes 4 or 5 times a week. And so being in large crowds seemed very, very natural and normal to me. In fact, actually, like I've eaten a sandwich while like middle of a club night, things are happening. Like it's my like workspace really. But as I got older and I went less, and then I stopped going out for quite a while. And then I went out one night and I was like, there's so many people. I'm so stressed right now. And I was like, this is weird because, and I think no matter what, like I'm going to feel a tad claustrophobic when we go back anyway, just because like I've not been in a room with more than a person for 6 weeks, and it's fucking, it'd be fucking weird. Yeah.
Like if I see like a scene of people riding public transit on a show, I get kind of uncomfortable now. So it's going to take a little while.
Yeah, it's going to be, so I think you're right. I think that 70%, 30% is actually an incredibly smart thing to say, and I think events are going to be a tad smaller. Brings me on to something that I've been doing this week, where I've been playing a lot of Tabletop Simulator. Well, a bit, but I want to play loads more. And I started playing it the other day, and I can't stop now. I'm just like, fuck yeah. Especially 40k, Age of Sigmar, both of those two, I'm just like, I build an army list. I'm writing an army list like they're going out of fashion. Because it's just great to just be able to like copy-paste, put my units down, start throwing them around on the board, look what deployment's like. It's honestly really good. I've enjoyed it anyway. I don't know what you guys think. Oh, no.
No, I think it's great. I think that anything we can do to keep up the hobby, and you're right. The benefit of Tabletop Simulator is you're not limited by the models you own, which is a big pro. It's a con to some people, but the fact that you can now, like you said, kind of scam through a list that you think would be awesome, but then you don't have to go buy the models or find someone that's okay with you proxying them, play them out, see how they actually play, go through and have a game. It's awesome. It's awesome. I love it. I'm a big fan of Tabletop Simulator as a secondary method of playing this game.
As a secondary method, absolutely. But yes. It's the first time I've been doing hobby. Maybe it's just the fact that for 50 days I've been doing hobby. And I'm like, I could probably do less hobby now. I'm not sure. I've got a Gazgul to paint.
So it's like, what's the matter, bro? What's the matter? Come on, Rob, keep up.
Just keep up. Honestly, the guys that do this all day, fuck. And I've got a Gazgul to paint. That's exciting.
So that's exciting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, a Gazgul and a Wardacker, a War Trike. So I'm excited to put those on the table. Pretty sweet. But yeah, anyway, that's been a fun little journey for me.
The stream table behind you is really shaping up.
Well, it's because I actually I don't know if you've seen Peep Show.
Peep Show.
Yeah, there's a really good. If you haven't watched Peep Show, if you either of you watch Peep Show,
You're a cam girl now?
No, that's. I have
Peep Show,
three children.
Peep Show is an English show about two flatmates, and it's in the vein of The Office-ish.
Okay.
I guess, where it's not really meant to be funny. Yeah, if you guys, we all share a fairly similar sense of humor, I think. If you guys haven't
Is
seen
it cringe comedy? Is it cringe comedy though?
No,
or is it
it's kind of, and yes. Yeah, it is.
UK or American Office here?
I like both.
And I know, but one is like existentially challenging, and the other one's like, oh, they're so cute together. So like, that's kind of the difference.
More the American Office.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It's a bit like Black Books. If you watch Black Books, either is that a show that translated? Oh, because the English
This sounds.
It's like Blackadder.
pornography.
It's not quite like Blackadder.
Now we're talking.
Yeah,
There we
Black
go.
Books is
There we
more like
go. I get
Blackadder.
that.
Black Books is more like Blackadder, and
Is it like does one character ever get like a turkey stuck on his head, and then he's like running around his apartment and he's bumping into stuff?
That's Mr. Bean.
Oh, I can't. Please watch it because you get to meet Superhands, who's great. He's one of the kind of recurring characters you see. He's quite often addicted to crack. Sometimes he's not, and sometimes he is.
I'm intrigued.
Okay, well now this sounds like Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I'm into that. I'm super into that. If it's
it's exactly like that, but English. I think weirdly.
I can't believe It's Always Sunny survived like beyond the Bush administration. This is why that guy's famous. I've always wondered where he came from.
Who? Oh,
The
you watch it.
larger
Okay.
of the two guys from Peep Show.
Oh, the two guys from Peep Show. Yeah, well, hopefully you guys will enjoy that. I don't know why that came up. I've got lost in our conversation.
You got swept into my non-Warhammer eyes.
In Peep Show, and it's a reference. Almost everyone in England see it, so I can make the reference, and I think it's fine. There's a scene where Mark, the try-hard corporate soldier, is trying really hard to finish a project for his boss, but him and his boss and everyone else has gone out to a strip club. So he's in the strip club getting a lap dance, and he's trying to do this project. And the stripper, it turns out, is also doing some sort of economics degree. And in the first, and he goes, "I'm trying to do the introduction for this," and she goes, "Oh, you've got too many points in there. Your opening is too diffuse." So that's now my little reference point. It's an incredibly long way of explaining that I was taking on too many projects, a la the stream table. Yeah. So as the stripper said, my aims are too diffuse. So I've decided to refocus on the other thing that I'm doing. So it's fine. Oh God. I don't like it when it's used on me.
These sound effects are killing me inside. It's fantastic.
Right. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. Anyway, so have you guys got any plans this week? Pete, did you finish Final Fantasy VII?
Of course I did. Like an hour and a half after we talked about it last week.
I thought you guys were talking about the end and how you didn't or did like it.
I hadn't seen it yet, but I'd heard it was either terrible or amazing, and I wanted to wait until I could give my own opinion. And I've played it, and I am super okay with it. I don't know why some of my friends are like, well, I do know why, but like they're just like in an absolute rage that it by remake he didn't mean a complete like remake. He has said in an interview post since like in the last couple of days that it should have been more like remake, as in this is like some weird Japanese additional thing where remake doesn't mean what you think it means. So yeah, and I'm like I was okay with the ending. I thought it was I'm okay with it because I beat that game. I lived it. It was like a cornerstone of my life. So the fact that they had enough nostalgia in the game that I like had those little heart moments, but then to change things up occasionally, I'm super cool with it because it means I'll actually play the second game and I'll be more apt to do it because I don't know what's about to happen.
Although I was a PlayStation fan growing up, and I think my sister's PlayStation 1 was the first console in our house, if I recall correctly. Neither here nor there. The first person I knew who's like really into like Japanese things like anime and Final Fantasy games, Pokemon, was a guy who I really didn't like. So I just never got into it. I was just like, not doing it. So
Well,
matter.
in high school, I was a bit of a jock for the first couple of years. It was only like partway through that I realized I was a nerd. And started hanging out with that kind of other crowd, as it were. And they were the ones that got me into it. They were like, "Oh man, you've never played Final Fantasy. You need to play Final Fantasy III, or I think it was, because like it's just going to change your life."
See.
And I said, "Okay, sure." So I went to Blockbuster. I rented Final Fantasy III, brought it home. That was not the game that was inside the box.
No,
it was Final Fantasy II, a much older game.
How was that even on the same system? How was there a PlayStation Final Fantasy II?
Well, no, this was back in these were Super Nintendo games, my friend. Yep. I just happened to own both, so I played Final Fantasy II.
Final Fantasy was not Final Fantasy VII.
No. Okay. So this is why I got into it, right? Because 7 was announced, and I was like, "This looks amazing. I don't even know what an RPG is." And then I found nerd friends who explained everything to me, taught me about what life was actually about.
Listen, don't hurt us.
And then I played through 2, loved it. Played through 3 eventually once it actually showed up at Blockbuster. Played the shit out of that. Like, bought it, put like 200-300 hours into that fucking thing. Pardon my language, I don't know. Just like absolutely blew me away. 7 comes out, changes the way like games in general are thought of in society. And then life has turned me into this, where I have slowly degraded in my nerddom from I'll only do comics and video games to I guess maybe a tabletop RPG will be cool, to maybe I'm okay with playing Warhammer. Like I think that's fine. I guess I'll play Magic. Whatever. Like I've kind of degraded to that point.
What you've gone to the MTG rabbit hole? That's happened.
Oh, of course. Well, yeah. I definitely have, and I'm okay with it. It is what it is. It's such as life.
When did this start?
MTG initially it started due to work years ago when I was a manager. I picked it up.
Thing, because I know you play Halo every now and again. I wasn't sure if it was a new thing.
Well, no, like it is new in that I play it a lot now. Before I only did it for work. It was like this is how I get to know my employees, because I had like a core group of 6 or 7 employees. I was like, I'll buy a deck. I'll play with these dudes, get to know them more. But now in my isolation, MTG Arena, I play the shit out of that just as something else to do with my life.
Hold on a second here. Pete, did you change your name to the Falcon 40K, or has someone stolen that for Twitch?
I am the Falcon 40K. That's me.
Thanks for subscribing.
Look at that. You finally joined up. Oh,
that's
here,
That's also the best way of doing it is subscribing while you're on air. That's like the
Well, to be fair, that wasn't me. Someone stole it. So that might be a different Falcon 40K. Actually, it's because it was a gift.
Gifted.
Warmaster 26 gifted me.
Oh, what a babe. Thanks, Warmaster. That's Martin. He's great. So can we talk about the end of... thanks, also, 40K.
I gave you my free one, because that's how much I care.
I was like, oh no, someone stole my identity. What's going on? I just changed it, too.
What happened? Oh, yeah. Pete was telling us about what kind of stuff he does in his spare time outside of 40K. Turns out it's Magic.
Yeah, now it is. And it's because...
Magic Gathering was my first nerd thing. It was
my last.
100% my first nerd thing. It was great.
I've never done the TGC thing, although I have been playing a game on my phone, the League of Legends version, which I've quite enjoyed. But I've never done that. But just quickly to talk about the end of Final Fantasy one more time. If you guys no spoilers.
Can
for
I just
everyone.
first call out, as a non-Final Fantasy guy, it's really hilarious to me that there's like 11 Final Fantasies. It's a great irony.
Way more than that. You're
15.
way
We're
behind
up to 15.
if you're at 11.
15. It's 15. But
15
this one
plus
for sure,
sequels.
guys. This is the Final Fantasy. Trust us. No, they lied to you again.
One of the cool things about the franchise, Val, was that each story was pretty much separate to the other stories. And the game system, and so it's not like where you're like, oh, I'm playing the same character and it's the same sort of premise. It was just basically a new RPG. That was it. And it's like, and you were really rolling the dice. They were like, we've made a new one. It's going to be great. You're like, okay, I'm bringing nothing from the previous 200 hours that I've spent playing the other game, and just
Like,
start
it's not
again.
the same world. Like it's they're not even like the same planet.
Not even
Just
the
totally
same
different
planet.
thing.
Just completely different, like, universes, paradigms, races. I mean, sometimes you see a chocobo or a mogul or something that would carry over. But
yeah, they have like very core things that are in almost all of them. But yeah, they're generally all different worlds.
So what is the
10 was the first one to do sequels. So
what's like the unifying thread aside from just the title? Like, is there like a thing?
JRPGs directed by essentially the same guy. Like it's
so
the
it
same crew of people that do all the stories.
Oh, yeah. So there is that. So it is at least the same creative group. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all my questions.
Well, the cool thing about the end of this, Pete, is that I read up on the ending, and the fun bit for me was that they used the story as a vehicle to change the story at the end. So the boss that you fight at the end, which is part of the process, reinvents the story, which is really exciting. And as I spoke about last week, I think, much like we've seen with some of the early editions of 40k, where they had little threads of narrative and then they've expanded it out, I quite like that they've done that as a franchise. And it really does show you how far ahead, this is why I brought it back, does show you how far ahead the 40k narrative genuinely is. Because they've got all of those themes where, we're talking about a game that you and me played 22 years ago, maybe?
Yes.
Maybe
yeah,
quite
22.
a while ago. Yeah, and then... and they've just now, 20 years ago, expanded those little threads of narrative into a larger, greater story. Whereas 40k are like, oh, bro, just whatever you want, like, go down this rabbit hole. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I think, this is, I think, why I grew to despise Star Wars and just love 40k. And it's just, I think good sci-fi is like little characters, big universe, right? So, like, that's 40k. So the people... Until you got to, Gilliman and friends fighting their way across the galaxy, like that was kind of how 40k was, and they resisted it. It was a setting that you could plan, you could imagine stuff happening in, all kinds of stuff like that. Whereas like Star Wars is everyone running into their dad in space. That's basically what Star Wars became. So I think that is the difference between at least like good engaging sci-fi and just like bad storytelling. I'm Simon. What
I can ask you both a question. Rogue One, what did you think of that movie? Because I have feelings, and the Twitch chat know my feelings. I just want to know your two's feelings.
It's the first one I liked in a long time. Oh. I know it's controversial. I watched that thing and I was like, why? I was like, why do like the alpha nerds hate this so much? And I didn't get it because it was the first one that was. Well, all right. Granted, it also had a Death Star, like 3/5 of all Star Wars movies, but I don't get why it was so bad. Over to you.
I thought it was not great. It was very boring for me right up until
you guys all saw Revenge of the Sith, right? Like Clone Wars.
Yes. Okay, don't put Clone Wars into this. That's a different
Clone Wars is the best one. You've got pod racing. You've got pod racing. You've got a giant battle. You've got space. I mean, what more could you want? Clone Wars is that's the first one, right? Of the new set back in the day.
Oh no, that was Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace is the best
series.
Oh, Phantom Menace is the best one. Oh yeah,
What's the second one? What's the second one? What's the stupid? What's number 2? I thought it was Attack of the Clones. Pardon me, Ninja Yoda. You've seen that, right? Oh, and you saw like the last however, the 2 movies that they released recently, right?
Yes.
Whatever those 2 were called. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Solo, which was
why Rogue One was terrible.
Okay. Solo was okay. It was like popcorn.
Solo was fine. I actually would agree with you. Solo was fine. Again,
it was popcorn.
Universe.
It was popcorn film.
Yeah. I just don't think anything could be better than pod racing. That's all I can say. That's all I'm gonna say. Go back in time now and watch that. You'll be like,
no.
Were you part of like the one like focus group that they did for Phantom Menace, and like everyone just happened to love pod racing?
I mean, I was what 14, 15 when Phantom Menace came out, and when I was in theater as like a 14-year-old kid, I was like, this is cool. And as I kind of grew up, I was like, maybe not. Maybe I was wrong. But I mean, it's who it's pointed towards, right? Like, I think that's part of it.
You and I are the same age, and I'm
older than you.
Okay, well then then it came out in '99. I was 50 years old. Yes,
I thought it came out in '95. Then I was 18.
That was the re-release of the trilogy. Started then ish.
I don't know. I don't follow Star Wars.
Yeah, well, way to wiggle out of this one. Let me just say that it was my first experience with what they call disillusionment. And then the Bush administration happened. It was a bad one to watch. I don't even know how I got out of that.
I hate to diff you, by the way, in the chat. I hope you're well. That's some news. Oh, since I saw you guys last week, that's some big 40k news.
Yeah.
To it.
Oh, the Dipster. We had some pointed questions for that guy. We gotta get. I
already asked them. I asked them direct. Go direct to the source. Yeah.
Did you do it in front of an audience so you felt uncomfortable about it?
Oh no, I'm not like that. I'm not like you. I'm not jaded and torn.
Wow, that really reached into someone's soul.
Okay, fine, whatever.
I wonder what this is Val's soul.
I like stats. They're the best, and I like talking to the community.
That's my impression.
Okay, Big Angry 911. I gotta say, you have the screen name for the current zeitgeist. I like that. Big Angry 911. It was an inside job. Parenthesis. So, what were we talking about?
And the chemicals inside it used to make all of the frogs gay. Remember that.
Okay.
Super important.
Turn of the Frogs gay is.
I think we were actually trying to talk about BCP and
we were
Down Under Pairings merging.
BCP indeed turns the frogs gay. That's their new.
That's
guys,
their new.
We're not the Drop Pod podcast. We're not that.
That's what I've heard. Oh, is that guy who's really angry on Facebook a lot?
Yes, all the time. I think he's only angry. He's like the Incredible Hulk of Warhammer.
Yeah, I guess so. Only incredibly mad.
Just upset person.
He is.
Yeah, we're trying to talk about the BCP Down Under Pairings Moija. I think it's promising. I think it would be wonderful if, the best of both worlds happen.
I have said it a few times. I'm super excited. Ever since they kind of did the teaser. I brought this up. When did I start Chapter Tactics? Like a year and a half ago. I think like my second episode on there. I was like, why don't these two guys get together? Because they're fucking. It would make everything so much better if they just did everything together. And so the fact that they're now kind of moving that way is great. I did talk to Diffie a little bit about his stats stuff that he was talking about on 40K Today. He did a little kind of briefing on some of the stats he's been able to pull from BCP. So I do have concerns there, but that's just a personal thing because of what I'm into. So hopefully those get resolved, because there's the main problem with just like taking stats directly out of BCP and then trying to create something out of them is the margin for error in BCP is massive without going into because people label their lists wrong.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out. So there's always that's a concern of mine. But other than that, like I'm so happy for what's happening. As long as everybody gets their fair shake, because I think it's great.
Yeah. But I'd also like to point out, Pete, that the knowledge that you bring to the table, like it's all well and good having something that automates stats and information. All well and good, but unless you immerse yourself, like it's interpretation. Like if you aren't able to like viscerally understand what you're seeing inside of the numbers, I'm not saying look into the matrix. And yeah, a win percentage is a win percentage. End of the day, yeah. But there's so much more involved in the understanding of that. That I don't think people who invest the time, like I know that you have, and that Val has, and other people have put in to truly understanding what you're seeing and taking that data in, and then explaining it out. I had yesterday. I had the amazing Henry Steele from the Cult of Paint. Tell me that's just not a great business card. Yeah, hello, I'm Henry Steele from the Cult of Paint.
I know Henry Steele from a different website, but whatever.
Yeah, along with his friend John Dong.
I like this. Johnny Sins.
Yeah. But he was talking to me about brushes and how apparently because of the global climate change, it's going to affect the quality of our painting brushes in the next few years. But what he stopped himself halfway. He's like, look,
I
that's not
think
important.
that's what got him thinking about climate change. He's looking at, oh no.
Anyway, my point is, he knows more about painting than I'll ever begin to learn. And he
Right.
teaches that out in much simpler ways. I think Pete and Val both on the 40k Stats Center, I think you guys do that similar thing too, where it's invaluable, that information that you actually know leading into stats, is what I'm trying to get at.
So context is key. However, I'm pretty sure Pete would be very pleased to get fired, as he said to me many times, and his job done by a robot so that he can do things like just read them.
Yeah. And I think that's where I'm getting at, is like, you're right. Context is super key, and there's going to be a problem no matter what when you automate data, where people will just bring it up and be like, this is this because I say so. And here's the number to prove it without going into the context of it. So that will be a problem. My biggest concern is we have to get there. And that's where like BCP needs to kind of up their game in terms of list verification. That's going to be the big changer. When they can list verify to the point where you know exactly what's in a list from like a top end view, that's going to be when those statistics, when they're automated, are going to be worthwhile. Like right now, most of these stats are getting pulled based off of like whatever the player chose as a title, right? So if you go to an event and you say, I'm running Sisters of Battle, and you click Sisters of Battle on your list submission, that's what everyone sees. And so a lot of these these things that are auto-generating stats, that's what it pulls from. It says, this said Sisters of Battle, so this is what it is. Problem with that is there's about a 12% error rate in what people select for lists based off of the data that I've pulled.
That's improved.
No, that's actually worse.
Is it? I thought
yeah.
I thought right after they changed how the factions were done, it was like 20 or 30%. I remember you were so sad last winter.
12. It's been 12 basically since. It never improved after that. It used to be about a 3. It 3 or a 4 when it was done the old way. Now it's at about a 12. So that 12% error rate is massive when it comes to, saying, X faction is.
They're just so good.
Yeah, this faction is so good, et cetera, et cetera. So those are things that need to be addressed, I think, before we can use them really thoroughly. And then I was just talking to Diffie about making sure we have filters so that you can pull remove certain data that's obviously not going to be helpful, right? One of the things that was said was that, I don't track RTTs because I don't have the time. And that's true. I don't have the time to track every event that's an RTT or above. But the other thing is a lot of that data is not very helpful, to track a 4-person event in a basement. I don't know.
Literally at my house.
Yeah. If you're the best Grey Knight player in the world, back when they were bad, they're obviously amazing now. But if you were in this small town that I live in for a long time, the only guy that really played a lot of 40K played Grey Knights. And so I bet for sure that he would have just wrecked face for forever up here by himself, no matter how bad they were. And that just kind of goes with anything else. So
I think with the evolution of the game, and ideally the game will get to continue to evolve someday, and specifically the competitive space. I'm hoping that influential people understand the value of having quantifiable data and statistics and ways to measure how armies are performing on the tabletop as a means to making and improving the game and its experience. If people buy into that, then maybe you could get someone like the ITC, and I've asked Reese for this a few times, or floated it in the TO group that the ITC has. It's just the idea of have some more minimums for what you have to do to get ITC points. I think it would not be unreasonable to say, in order to get your ITC points, right now all you have to do is submit a request and have ITC written somewhere publicly on your documents, so you're advertising ITC. That's it. That's what you have to do, and then you have to meet requirements for a GT major or whatever. But if we said that in order to qualify as an ITC event, you have to have your list posted, you have to verify that the factions are identified correctly, and that's it. I mean, you could even go one step further. You could say have to be posted in X format. That would be ideal, because then you could run scripts on it and stuff. Then you would have the foundations to have clean, good data. And it would also provide incentives for TOs to do the half-assed work that is telling people to upload their list, scanning through lists and making sure that they're the right faction. all that kind of stuff. So, because you could get that 12% down to like a 1 or 2%, like the edge weird cases.
Yep, exactly.
You know,
I think
like
that's really it. So,
I think that's
So
actually really interesting. I didn't know that there was such a...
standards for ITC points would be wonderful.
Yeah, I think any sort of professionalization in the future is good. I think the merger between the two groups is a positive because it's going to produce a better environment for people to learn. And the problem is what you could have is nothing happen, but now we're seeing something positive happen and an intent to do something better in the future. And I think that's a great starting point for anything positive.
For sure.
for sure. I mean, I love Diffie and Adam and Paul, all those guys. They do such great work, and the fact that they're like, I can't overstate how excited I am that they finally got together and are doing something together.
It was also really shitty that they were rivals for so long, like legitimately, like in speaking to both camps independently over time. Well, I don't know about the BCP guys, but the Down Under guys were like, why are these guys after us? You know, like they were looking over their shoulders. You know, the BCP was hanging out in various, steam coated alleyways waiting for Down Under pairings to come by so they could take them out. You know, it was just a weird and like feeling of antagonism between the two, and now it doesn't exist. Now they're working together because they're all really nice, intelligent, super, engaged people, and I'm glad that they're working together.
They're making out all the time. Can't keep them apart.
Sending each other nudes. It's
Beautiful.
just getting a bit unreal.
Getting in the DMs.
I have turned into a pumpkin, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, it's been a pleasure, as always. Thank you both for being on the show, and thank you for everyone who's joined us live on Patreon or as a podcast. You guys are great. Have you two specifically got any final thoughts?
Pete?
Nope.
Nothing going on up here.
I'm working on 4 hours sleep. I'm hoping I can get another hour in before my daughter wakes up. So
Sweet.
Thanks
All
so
right.
much for
Well,
doing this, Pete.
That was some excellent sound affecting. My final thought would be on the whole COVID thing. It reminds me of one of my favorite Onion articles of the Iraq War. It's a point counterpoint, and the title of it is "This war will destabilize the entire Mideast region and set off a global shockwave of anti-Americanism versus." No, it won't.
I remember that article. It was beautiful.
That's kind of how I feel about all the shit that's going on. Thank you, everybody.
Goodbye, everyone. Have a great day.